My name is Nora Callahan. I'm 31 years old. 8 months ago, I opened my childhood jewelry box, the white lacquered one with the tiny ballerina on top that I've had since I was 5, and found it empty. The ring my grandmother placed on my finger the last Christmas she was well enough to sit at the dinner table was gone. A gold band with a small oval sapphire. Nothing flashy, nothing worth much to anyone who didn't know what it meant. She'd held my hand and said, "This was my mother's. Now it's yours. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." I called my mother to ask where it was. She said, "I borrowed it. I needed to cover the balance on Stephanie's girls' trip to Cancun. I'll replace it." She said borrowed. About a ring she'd sold. What she didn't know was that my grandmother had anticipated exactly this kind of moment. 11 months before she died, Nana June sat down with a lawyer and made very specific arrangements. By the time I walked into that attorney's office 3 weeks after finding the empty jewelry box, her foresight had already changed everything. Before I tell you what those arrangements were, and what happened when my family finally understood them, please like and subscribe, but only if this story genuinely speaks to you. Drop a comment below. Where are you watching from and what time is it there? I really do love connecting with you all. Now let me take you back to the beginning, because the ring was never really the beginning. Growing up in a small town outside of Louisville, Kentucky, I understood from a very young age that my sister Stephanie operated under different rules than I did. Not hidden rules, not subtle ones. Open, acknowledged, accepted rules that everyone in the family seemed to find perfectly reasonable. My family, briefly. Dad worked in insurance. Quiet man, conflict avoidant to his core. Mom managed everything else, the house, our schedules, and the careful maintenance of Stephanie's happiness. Stephanie is 4 years older than me, always has been the beautiful one, the social one, the one my mother introduced first at every gathering. And me? I was the responsible one, the reader, the one who didn't need much, because she never made a fuss. Not making a fuss turned out to be a very expensive habit. When I was 9, I saved my birthday and Christmas money for almost a full year to buy a specific book set I wanted, an illustrated collection of mythology, $42 total. I had 38. I asked my mom if I could borrow $4 from my piggy bank fund that she kept in the kitchen drawer. She opened the drawer. Empty. She'd lent my $4 to Stephanie for a school field trip. "She'll pay you back," Mom said. She never did. I told myself it was just $4. When I was 15, I made the junior varsity volleyball team. Tryouts were competitive, and I'd practiced every single day for 2 months in our driveway. I came home and told my parents at dinner. My dad nodded and said, "That's great, Nora." My mom said she was happy for me, and then immediately pivoted to telling us that Stephanie had been asked to homecoming by a boy from the neighboring school district, and they needed to go shopping this weekend for a dress. We spent $310 on that dress. My volleyball shoes, which I actually needed to play, were $65, and I was told to wait until after the semester to see if I'd really stick with it. I stuck with it for 3 years. I asked twice more about shoes before Mom finally bought me a pair on clearance. I told myself sports shoes weren't as exciting as prom dresses. I was probably right. When I was 22, my grandmother, my mother's mother, Nana June, got sick. Not suddenly sick, the slow, incremental kind that changes a person's life in portions. She'd had a mild stroke, and while she recovered most of her function, she moved more carefully after that. Spoke more deliberately. Started putting her affairs in order, the way people do when something makes them suddenly aware of time. Nana June and I had always been close in a way that was hard to explain to people who hadn't seen it. She'd taught me to bake, driven me to the library every Saturday when I was little, called me every Sunday for as long as I could remember, just to talk. She was the person in my family who paid attention. That same year, my mother took out a personal loan to fund Stephanie's wedding. Stephanie was marrying a man named Garrett, who she'd dated for 8 months. The wedding was $34,000. My parents paid $22,000 of it directly, and my mother co-signed on a personal loan for the remaining $12,000. She didn't ask Nana June for anything, because Nana June by then had made it very clear where her money was going. To me, she'd said simply, "I'm not leaving this world without making sure you're taken care of, Nora Bird." I told her not to worry about me. She said, "That's exactly why I have to." The breaking point, the one that brought everything to a head, came slowly, then all at once, the way those things do. Nana June passed away 14 months ago. She went quietly, in the early morning, in her own bedroom, the way she'd always said she wanted to. I drove 4 hours to be with the family that first week, took time off work, handled most of the calls and arrangements because my mother was too grief-stricken to manage them, and Stephanie had a conflict with a previously scheduled trip to Nashville she felt bad canceling. Stephanie showed up for the funeral, wore the right black dress, cried beautifully, left the following morning. I stayed 3 more days, helped my mother sort through Nana June's things, made sure the house was handled, and then drove home carrying the jewelry box Nana June had specifically told me to take. Her written instructions, left on her bedside table in her own handwriting, said, "The white jewelry box goes to Nora. Everything in it is hers." The box contained 3 things at that point: a pearl necklace, a small pair of gold earrings, and the ring. The sapphire ring that had belonged to Nana June's mother, and before that her grandmother, passed down through women on that side of the family until it landed in my hands that Christmas 5 years ago. I brought the box home, put it on my dresser, checked on it the way you check on things that matter, opened it sometimes just to look. And then, 8 months ago, I drove back to my parents' house for a weekend visit. I always stayed in my childhood room. The box lived on the dresser there when I wasn't home. I'd left it deliberately, thinking it was safer there than in my apartment. I opened it Saturday morning. Empty. Not misplaced, not moved to a drawer. Empty. The velvet dividers were still there. The pearls were still there. The earrings were still there. The ring was gone. My throat closed. I went downstairs. My mother was at the kitchen counter with her coffee. "Mom, where's the ring from Nana June's box?" She didn't look up immediately. That half-second pause told me everything. "Oh, that," she said. "I borrowed it for a little while. Stephanie needed help covering the balance on her trip. I'll replace it." I stood very still. "You sold it." "I pawned it. I'll buy it back." "For how much?" She looked up. "The pawn shop gave me $280. The trip balance was $340, so I covered the rest from my checking account. I'll get it back, Nora. It was just sitting there." Just sitting there. My grandmother's mother's ring, passed through 4 generations of women, given to me specifically, explicitly, in writing, with a note that said it was mine. "Just sitting there," I said quietly. "Don't be dramatic. I said I'll replace it." I drove home that afternoon without saying much else. I sat in my apartment that evening with Nana June's empty jewelry box on my lap, and something in me, something that had been patient for 30 years, something that had accepted being the one who didn't make a fuss, finally finished being patient. I thought about every dollar I'd never been paid back. The $4 from the kitchen drawer. The volleyball shoes I'd waited months for. The wedding I'd helped coordinate for $22,000 worth of someone else's marriage. The funeral arrangements I'd managed alone while Stephanie went to Nashville. And now this. The one physical object in the world that was irreplaceable, that carried the weight of 4 generations of women who came before me, sold for $280 to cover a vacation my sister couldn't afford. I'm not dramatic. I spent 31 years making sure I wasn't dramatic. But I sat there that night, and I was done. There's a woman named Patricia Howe. She is, or was, Nana June's attorney, a small-town estate lawyer who'd worked with my grandmother for almost 15 years. Nana June had mentioned her in passing a few times, referred to her as my Patricia, the way you refer to a trusted professional you've come to rely on. I'd met her once at a community event and thought nothing more of it. After I found the empty box, something made me look Patricia Howe up. I called her office on a Monday morning, Told the receptionist I was June Callahan's granddaughter and that I had some questions about her estate. Patricia came on the line herself within 10 minutes. "Nora," she said, "I've been expecting you might call." That stopped me cold. "You have?" "Your grandmother told me you probably wouldn't call right away. She said you weren't the type to act quickly on things like this, but that when you did, you'd be ready." A pause. "Are you ready?" I said I thought I was. "Then come in," she said. "There are things you need to know." I drove back to Louisville that Thursday. Patricia Howe's office was exactly what you'd expect from a small-town estate lawyer who'd been practicing for 30 years. Warm, slightly cluttered, smelling of old paper and good coffee. A framed needlepoint on the wall behind her desk read, "The law is patient." I remember thinking that was either deeply comforting or quietly ominous, depending on which side of the desk you were on. She had a folder on her desk with my name on the tab. She'd clearly been holding it for a while. When I sat down across from her and she slid it toward me, I noticed the tab had been typed, not handwritten. Nana June had given Patricia my name before I ever knew to call. What Nana June had done was this. 11 months before she died, while she was still fully competent and deliberate and characteristically 2 steps ahead of everything, she had established a small trust. Not a large one, but a specific one. The trust was funded with $47,000, the savings she'd accumulated over decades of careful living, a small insurance payout from my grandfather's death, and the sale of some costume jewelry she no longer wore. It was designated entirely for me. Not split between her grandchildren, not parceled out with any gesture toward fairness that might have diluted the point. Mine, outright, unconditionally. She had told no one except Patricia. Not my mother, not Stephanie, not my father. She had signed the documents, reviewed them, and then simply gone back to her daily life, calling me on Sundays, baking, watching her garden come up in the spring, with the quiet satisfaction of someone who has done what needed to be done. Inside the trust documents, Nana June had also included a letter. Patricia handed it to me across the desk. I recognized the handwriting immediately. "My dearest Nora Bird," it began. She wrote that she knew our family. She knew my mother meant well but had a particular blind spot when it came to Stephanie. She knew that I had spent my whole life being the one who adjusted, who gave, who made do. She wrote that she had watched me do it with grace and without complaint, and that she was proud of me, but that she also knew grace and silence could be taken advantage of. She wrote that she had loved Stephanie too, but that Stephanie had received and would continue to receive. That she wanted me to have something that was fully, unambiguously mine. She wrote, "If anyone has helped themselves to what belongs to you, and Nora, knowing your mother, I suspect they may have, this document will set things right. Patricia has instructions. Trust her." I sat across from Patricia Howe for a long time after reading that. Then I told her about the ring. Patricia nodded slowly. "Your grandmother anticipated something along those lines, which is why she included a specific provision." She turned a page in the folder. "Any personal property designated to you in writing by June Callahan, including the contents of the white jewelry box explicitly named in her personal effects list, is covered under the Trust's protective clause. Disposing of it without your consent is a breach that Patricia, that I, am authorized to address on your behalf." She was already drafting a letter. The next 6 weeks were not comfortable for my mother. A formal letter from an estate attorney has a way of cutting through the casual, the "I'll replace it," the "don't be dramatic." The letter outlined what the ring was, what it had been designated as, what disposing of it had constituted legally, and what would be required to make it right, financially, since the ring itself was gone. My mother called me furious. Then she called me crying. Then she called me again, this time quieter, and I could tell she'd had time to sit with it. "I didn't know she'd left you something like that," she said. "You knew the ring was mine," I said. "Nana said it in front of the whole family." "I know." Long pause. I thought because it was in the house it was still sort of—" She stopped. "I don't have a good excuse." I know you don't. The trust itself I received in full. $47,000 transferred to an account in my name within 30 days of my meeting with Patricia. Nana June had also included, in the trust's personal effects list, the specific value of the ring. She'd had it appraised 5 years ago, shortly after giving it to me, and had documented the appraisal at $1,100. That amount was added to my disbursement. My mother repaid the $1,100 herself. Not because the trust required it, the trust had already covered it. She did it because Patricia's letter made clear that it was the right thing to do, and my mother, underneath everything, has always wanted to do the right thing. She just needed it spelled out for her sometimes. Stephanie found out through my mother. She texted me, "I didn't know it was Grandma's ring. Mom just said she had something she could sell. I feel terrible." I believed her, mostly. I wrote back, "I know, but I need you to understand that this wasn't the first time, Steph. It's a pattern, and I'm not going to keep pretending it isn't one." She didn't write back for several days. When she did, she said, "You're right. I've let it happen. I'm sorry." That was more than I expected. I thanked her. The months after that have been careful ones. My mother and I talk on the phone about twice a week. Our conversations are more honest than they used to be. Less performance on both sides, less me swallowing things I want to say. She asked once, tentatively, whether I was angry with her. I told her honestly that I'd been angry, but that what I felt now was more like grief. Grief for the version of our relationship I'd always wanted and never quite gotten. She cried. I let it be. Stephanie and I are in a slow rebuilding. She's been more self-aware since everything came out, more conscious of what she takes and what she offers. We're not close the way sisters in movies are close, but we're honest with each other now in a way we never were before, and that might actually be better. I used part of Nana June's trust to do something she would have loved. I took a ceramics class, something I'd always wanted to do and never made time for, and I've kept going every week for 7 months now. I'm not very good yet, but I'm getting less bad steadily, and there is a profound satisfaction in making something with your hands that didn't exist before. Nana June would have had opinions about my technique and shared all of them, gently and at length. I miss her every single day. That doesn't go away, and I've stopped expecting it to. What I have now, though, is something she gave me deliberately. Proof that she saw me. Proof that she knew who I was in this family and chose to act on it. That trust wasn't just money, it was documentation. It was a letter in her handwriting that said, "I know what's happening. I know what you've been giving. Here is something that cannot be taken from you." The ring is gone, and I grieve that. No amount of money replaces a physical object that belonged to 4 generations of women who held it before me. But I carry what it meant with me. And I carry Nana June's words in that letter, which I have kept and read many times since. She saw me. That's what mattered. That's what she made permanent. If you are the person in your family who adjusts, who gives, who keeps the peace, who has spent years being the one who doesn't make a fuss, I want to say this to you carefully. Your patience is not the same thing as consent. People taking advantage of your grace is not a compliment to your character. It's a cost you've been paying. You are allowed to stop paying it. You don't have to blow anything up. You don't have to become someone you're not. You just have to stop accepting, quietly and alone, things that should never have been asked of you in the first place. Someone in your life sees you clearly, even if it doesn't feel like it right now. Find that person. Hold on to them. Let them remind you of what you're worth when you've forgotten. And if you ever need proof that your worth exists even when your family can't see it, know that sometimes it gets written down in a lawyer's folder with your name on the tab, waiting for the day you're finally ready to collect it. Thank you for being here with me until the end. If this story moved you, please like and subscribe. It means more than you know. Have you ever had someone in your family truly see you? Or someone who failed to? Tell me about it in the comments. I read every single one. Until next time, you don't have to earn the love that was always supposed to be yours. You just have to stop giving it to people who make you feel like you do.